Just about 14 hours left in the Bush administration. If you're counting, we are 70,114 hours into it. So if you're into percentages, that means we are 99.98% of the way through the Bush administration. We have a calculator. So what could happen in the last 0.02% of his tenure? Well, earlier today, still President Bush commuted the prison sentences of two former U.S. Border Patrol officers. They were convicted of shooting a drug smuggler who fled across the Rio Grande, after they'd stopped his vehicle, which was containing more than 700 pounds of marijuana. But the big pardon-y question remains, what about preemptive action? Might the still president pardon administration officials involved in torture, or warrantless wiretapping, or politicized Justice Department hirings, or might he preemptively pardon himself? It is time for the penultimate Rachel Maddow Show Lame Duck Watch, because it's now or never. The calls for a reckoning are growing by the day, and not just from progressives outside the government. That said, President-elect Obama himself does not seem particularly inclined toward investigating alleged Bush administration crimes.
We have not made final decisions, but my instinct is for us to focus on how do we make sure that moving forward we are doing the right thing. That doesn't mean that if somebody has blatantly broken the law that they are above the law, but my orientation is going to be to move forward.
What do you mean by blatant, sir? But the Congress may be getting behind a very different approach. House Judiciary Chairman John Conyers released a nearly 500-page report that calls for an independent criminal probe and a blue ribbon commission to look into whether any laws were broken. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi now says she will support congressional efforts to investigate the Bush administration. Over in the Senate Judiciary Committee, member Sheldon Whitehouse says that he may take matters into his own hands. He told NPR, quote, "I think we in Congress have an independent responsibility, and I fully intend to discharge that responsibility." Senator Barbara Boxer says she supports Armed Services Chairman Carl Levin's call for a commission with subpoena power to investigate abuses at Guantanamo. Each of those comments from those two senators were made on this show. And at Attorney General designate Eric Holder's confirmation hearing, Senator Russ Feingold asked Mr. Holder what he would do to make sure, quote, "those who engage in wrongdoing don't, in effect, have the last laugh." Holder later left room for a rigorous look backwards.
No one's above the law, and
I'll agree with that.
We will follow the evidence, the facts, the law, and let that take us where it should.
Here in Washington, in the last 24 hours, a handful of governors from across the country have told me that they would be in favor of prosecutions for Bush administration criminal acts if they could be proven. So, will it happen? And could President Bush pardon himself or any vulnerable members of his administration in the next few hours? Joining us now is Jonathan Turley, professor of constitutional law at George Washington University Law School. Mr. Turley, nice to see you. Thanks for coming on tonight. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
This story is not going away. Everybody is talking about whether to investigate Bush administration officials to potentially prosecute them. Do you think that Obama and his team realized how hot an issue this would become and would stay?
I don't think so. I don't think the people in that building thought it. I mean, that building is where principals go to die. And they haven't, because there's been this groundswell of people saying, look, you might be able to get away with the electronic surveillance program and say that's just a crime we're not going to allow to be prosecuted. But these are war crimes. These are a special category. And they're beginning to see they're not getting traction by selling this commission. The question is going to be whether the same effect can be placed on the Obama administration. I mean, the downside to all the pageantry, and it is certainly well-deserved, is it's important for the people that lift their hand in front of that building to understand the difference between the man and the mandate. And the mandate here, as far as I understood it, was that we're going to have a true change where people would be held accountable. And all this talk about civility makes it sound like it's just simply uncivil to investigate people for war crimes.
Yeah. If war crimes are to be investigated and potentially prosecuted, how much of the impetus for that procedurally could come from Congress and how much has to come from the administration? If, for political reasons, however wrong they may be, the administration decides to not go for it, can Congress do it?
Not really. Yeah. I mean, the fact is that the Commission and Congress are not going to have the effect of simply President Obama, when he does become president tomorrow, getting out of the way. all they have to do is say, we're going to allow the law to be enforced. That's not a very difficult thing to say, but it's going to be inconvenient. But principle is always inconvenient. It's never a good time for principle. And so that's going to be the test. But you know what, I think that the new Barack Obama, the President Obama, is going to find it very hard to go around the world and to say that we're now again the nation of rules of law if the first act he commits as president is to walk away from a confirmed war crime.
If the administration has confirmed that they tortured people, and they have
Right,
used
yeah.
the T word, they have described what they have done, which is recognized as torture, it's something for which we have prosecuted people. Are we literally looking at a possibility where administration officials from this administration cannot travel abroad to the other 145 countries that have signed the torture treaty because they might get arrested?
Yeah, most certainly. Look, the status of George Bush is not that different from Augusto Pinochet. They have both been accused of running a torture program. And outside this country, there's not this ambiguity about what to do with a war crime. There are 4 treaties that make this an international violation. So if you go abroad and try to travel, most people abroad are going to view you not as former President George Bush, they're going to view you as a current war criminal.
And they're going to view us as an outlaw regime for not arresting him on our own soil.
I think so, unfortunately. A lot's at stake, and we have to get beyond the politics and look for a change, just for the clarity of principle.
Jonathan Turley is a professor of constitutional law at George Washington University Law School. Happy inauguration. Thanks for coming on.
Rachel.
Keep your feet to the fire. Very good.